everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're going to be doing the commentary for episode 16 of Miraculous Ladybug season 5, Protection. Before we go ahead and talk about this episode, I want to spoil the full thing for you. So if you haven't already watched the episode, I will try my best, but I make no promises, to find some places where you can watch it, and I will leave them linked down below. But please know those links will eventually get taken out for copyright and stuff like that. So yeah, but honestly this season they are really clamping down on the copyrights, so I really do make no promises with that. And second of all, I haven't read the show Bible or seen the vast majority of the leaks. So if you have, great, good for you. Couldn't be happier for you. However, I haven't, and in this video I'm going to speculate about some stuff, ask some questions, and if you already know the answer, wonderful. I don't want to know. Okay, I don't want to know until I sit down and watch the episode for whatever that answer lies in. Okay, I don't actually want to know. So yeah, and I just want to add another disclaimer here. So, the last two commentary videos I made for Emotion and Perfection were episodes that featured Kagami quite a lot, and I make it no secret that I do not like Kagami. And I do find this kind of funny, and some of you are probably thinking, why are you finding this funny? Some of you probably already understand why I think it's funny. So let me just say it all before you leave something horrible in the comments. But under both of those videos, I was getting, I would say, a mild amount of hate comments saying the only reason Hayes dislikes Kagami is because Kagami is autistic. And I bet some of you are wondering, why on earth does Hayes find that funny? And the others among you are like, oh yeah, I can see why that's funny as well. The reason I find it funny is because I am autistic. I felt I needed to say it in this video because, again, Kagami is featuring prominently in this video, and I am actually going to talk about autism in this video because I felt like it's more relevant. I don't mention my autism in every video just because it's not relevant. It's not because I'm hiding it, it's not because I'm ashamed. I actually love being autistic, but I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not hiding it. It's just not relevant the majority of the time. Like, if you watch my vlogs, which I do occasionally, or if you're on my Discord server and talk to me one-on-one, you'll probably know a bit more than the average viewer about me, but the channel's about Miraculous Ladybug, it's not about me. So whilst I do bring in things that have happened to me in my life or exciting things I'm going to do and want to share with you all, I, for the most part, keep it about the show. So I'm not trying to hide my autism from everyone, but like, why would I bring it up if it's not relevant? I wouldn't, so I don't. See what I'm saying? So whilst I do find it funny that people thought I disliked her because she was autistic. That's not the reason I dislike Kagami, and I would hope if anyone else dislikes Kagami, they do have a good reason for it, which I do, and it's not because she's autistic. And also, just like a general PSA, you are actually allowed to dislike someone if they're autistic. If the reason you dislike them is because they're autistic, that's wrong, that's ableist. But you are allowed to dislike them for other reasons. Not everyone likes me. I hope you're not watching this video because you're like, I don't really like her, she's annoying, she talks too much, she's a narcissist. All of those things are true. But I don't want you to be like, oh yeah, she is really annoying, but she's disabled, I have to watch it. No, you don't. You are allowed to dislike autistic people. It's okay. So, yeah, that's not the reason I dislike Kagami, and I am allowed to dislike someone who's autistic. I do not have to like someone just because they are also autistic like me. It's not like a code of conduct. It's like, oh, I have to like every autistic person I come across. No. You do not. And I do not. I have met a lot of autistic people. Some of them are lovely. Some of them are not. I do not have to like every single one of them. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. So, first of all, you're allowed to dislike me, even though I'm disabled, and I'm allowed to dislike Kagami, even if she is autistic, so it's not been confirmed. It's okay to dislike autistic people. It's alright. Don't worry about it. As long as the reason you dislike them isn't because they're autistic. Okay? Now we've got that out of the way, I bet the next question is, Hayes, what on earth are you wearing? I've got pyjamas on because Adrian and Marinette were obviously having a pyjama party this episode, and I wanted to join in, and I wish I'd come up with this idea. It was someone on Twitter who suggested it to me, and I was like, oh my god, yes you. I don't remember your name, but yes you. Right on the money. So I am in full pyjamas. I've got, I don't know if you can see, yes, my gingerbread men socks on, my dressing gown on. Obviously I did my hair and makeup. I don't go to bed with my hair and makeup like this. But anyway, let's finally talk about the episode. Now I've had to tell everyone that I, in fact, am autistic and I'm not ableist. Okay, so overall, I would give this episode a 9 out of 10. The reason it's not a full 10 out of 10 I'm going to go into fairly quickly, probably like the second point of like the longer commentary. So I mean, as you all know, I love the love square, so I really liked the bigger focus on the love square. Like the Akuma fight didn't happen until like, I don't know, maybe like the last 5 minutes of the episode. So I often like it when the Akuma is has less importance in the episode, a bit like all the Glee Shooter episodes we've got where it's more focused on the relationship and less about the Akuma. So I loved it for that. Well, when I say I loved Lila manipulating Kagami, I didn't because I felt bad for Kagami, but I like what Lila's bringing to the table in terms of this season, and I also really like Kagami's development despite not liking her. So now let's talk about Kagami and autism, because I was having a scroll on Twitter. So what I usually do is I have my phone on Do Not Disturb other than to turn the alarm off. Then I watch the reaction, and after I've gone through and made my notes, I go through my YouTube comments and like see what people are saying on Twitter and Instagram to see people's reactions to this episode. And I did see a few people saying they felt it was unrealistic for Kagami to be manipulated twice by Lila, because obviously the other time was in perfection, because she was making Kagami fill out that quiz she'd made up to see if Marinette was as good of a friend as Kagami thought she was. And a lot of people were saying like, well, Kagami's really clever, I don't feel like she could be manipulated twice by Lila. And whilst I agree Kagami is very clever, she has definitely more academic brains from what we've seen and heard, but like Adrian, she lacks social skills, and she would be likely unable to tell when someone is manipulating her. So whilst if this was anyone else in the show, for example if this was Alia, I don't buy Alia could be manipulated to this level, because I know she believes some of Lila's lies, but she's never manipulated to the level Lila's trying with Kagami. Whilst it would be far-fetched for someone like Alia, in my opinion, to be manipulated by Lila like this, I don't feel it's so far-fetched for Kagami. Assuming she is autistic, she really seems to lack more social skills and stuff, and before anyone says, oh but Hayes, you seem to have those social skills, I know I seem to have those social skills. I did not have as much of a sheltered upbringing as Kagami. I didn't even find out I was autistic until I was 18, which as far as an autism diagnosis goes, that's old. You usually find out before you like turn like 10 or something. 18 is an old age to be diagnosed with autism. So I was like, oh, so that's what's been going on with me when I found out when I started university. So I've been like forced to learn how to fit in and have all these social skills that I hate having to do, but I know I have to do it. It's just the way it is in order to survive in life, where it seems that Kagami, because of how controlling her mum is and also because of how rich they are, Kagami's never really had to do that before. So I don't think it's actually that far-fetched for Kagami to be manipulated twice by her. However, one thing I do find strange, autistic or not, because I actually would like them, if Kagami is autistic, I want them to say it. Like, I don't want to be guessing, because I feel like some of the other characters could be autistic too. I feel like Julia could, Luca could, Max could, I even feel like Adrian could, maybe Felix as well, some of the others as well. I would like them to say if they are. But anyway, what I want to say is, so I can buy Kagami being manipulated twice by Lila, but she is smart, so I'm like, okay, you've been manipulated twice by this girl, so then why at the end of the episode, I know I'm jumping ahead, I know I like to do these in chronological order, but why at the end are you like, I know you manipulated me, but I'm still going to give you another chance to be friends with you. Either Kagami is just an infinitely better person than I am, because I couldn't. I'd be like, no, you manipulated me twice, no, we're not doing this. But like, Kagami's clever, I would say she's smarter than me, and I still wouldn't stand for it, because like Kagami, I have been in these situations where people who I thought were my friends took advantage of my disability and did manipulate me into doing stuff or looking at stuff I didn't want to do, but I felt like I couldn't say no, because I'm like, oh, maybe this is just what friends do. I've had to learn a lot of not so great stuff has happened to me as a result of being autistic and not understanding these social cues well enough. So I do feel bad for Kagami, but I feel like Kagami is smarter than me. She should know, like, why are you letting her be friends with you, and why are you letting her do this to you? any further than it has. Once, okay, not your fault. Twice, because you're autistic, again, I'd say not your fault. But you're still going to be friends with her? I feel it's a bit weird, and I feel it's just giving into a plot point that's going to come up later on in this season, or maybe even future seasons, because it seems definitely that Lila's going to be the next Hawkmoth after we got at the end of Emotion. But right now I'm just a bit like, are they trying to play up like this, whether or not it is autism or not? Are they trying to play it up and like think like, oh yeah, Kagami would 100% trust her? Like, no, Kagami isn't stupid. You've also made Kagami quite clever. Okay, like, you gotta draw the line somewhere, and this really should be the line. You've manipulated her twice now, told lies about Marinette, who you know is a good person, who Adrian, who you trust, has told you is a good person. You've seen for yourself she's a good person, and you're still gonna be friends with Lila. The only reason I can think they're doing it is because Kagami and Lila have to be friends for something later this season or for something in the next seasons. But if that's the case, they shouldn't have had Kagami confront Lila like that at the end of the episode. So that's one of the reasons why maybe it should be an 8 out of 10. Yeah, actually, okay, it's gonna be an 8 out of 10. Because that wasn't the reason why it was a 9 out of 10. Now it's 8 out of 10. So the other reason why this is another mark lower is because of the class, all their friends. Now don't get me wrong, I love a good class episode. Episodes like Guilt Trip, you all know Guilt Trip's one of my favourite episodes of all time. That's a class episode. I also love episodes like, I don't know, Horrificator, that's a class episode where all the class come together. Like sometimes it's really focused on Marinette and Adrian or Ladybug and Cat Noir or whatever mixed together, or the Love Square, or maybe like it's an Adrian and Nino episode, or a Marinette and Alia, or an Alia and Nino episode, or something to do with Chloe, right? So I really enjoy it when it's like the whole class together. So I was like, oh cool, like when I found out it was about the class I was like, oh that's cool, I'm gonna really enjoy this. Except I didn't. I understand it's possibly for humour purposes, but I know they were doing this in perfection as well, so I'm just a bit like, just leave them. Just leave Adrian and Marinette to it. Like, I appreciate their enthusiasm, but please just leave them alone. It'll happen when it's meant to. Like, part of me when I was watching it the first time, I was like, this is kind of funny, but then as the scene went on, I was just like, just leave them alone. It'll happen when it's meant to happen, but obviously seems like the class will keep trying to get them together. I'm like, just leave them alone. Just leave them. Please! Please leave them. Although one thing that was just like, so when they were showing their little scripts with the sketches in, and they show Adrian later on in life, why does he have a moustache? He had a moustache as well in Jubilation, in the Wish part. Why are they so set on giving this boy a moustache when he grows up? I am not okay with it, I'll be honest with you. No, I'm not okay with it. And I mean, yeah, I thought the plan was okay. It was very sweet, like, oh, kiss at the top of the Ferris wheel, like it's a common like romance trope. Okay, fine, but you're all gonna be watching with Kitty section minus Luca, where is Luca also, and the others in the other pod, either side of you watching plus a camera. I wouldn't have wanted to kiss either. So I was just like, no, please don't time your kisses. Do not. So much pressure, especially your first one. Don't. No, it was just weird. So now I want to talk about the diamond dance part. So obviously we've already, if you've seen Emotion, we've already seen the diamond dance thing, which is fine. I don't mind having seen it already. Well, we didn't know about it in the first place, but whatever. Why on earth are they so set with the date having been moved up? I'm assuming we're missing some context there, whether we get it in a previous episode or another episode after this, but I'm just like, why? Like, I know Gabriel rolls his sleeve up, not that Mr. Ruki can see his arm, but obviously it seems to be hinting at that. So my first thought was like, okay, so he wants to have this dance before he dies? I don't know. Maybe he just loves his party so much he's like, yeah, we gotta go before my arm falls off. I don't know. So I'm a bit confused about the reasoning for that. Like, why do you want it moved up? Because, I mean, I don't know what was intending to happen at the dance because obviously Felix interrupted. But it's just very strange. I don't know. And then a bit later on, again, I know I'm skipping ahead a bit. So when Tomoe and Gabriel are talking, she's like, this has to be sorted before you leave, which I felt like was a euphemism for dying. Like, we have to sort this out before you die, which I thought was kind of funny. But I'm just like, So is the goal here, like, for Adrian and Marinette to date? Because I'm not really, like, there were loads of hints of it in this episode in that, so Gabriel is talking to Adrian in the kitchen after Kagami leaves. Gabriel was like saying, oh, you're made for each other, but it wasn't quite like made for each other isn't, oh, you're meant to be together. It was like, you're like the same model. You two should date because you're both Senti, which is just bizarre. And it's like, oh, perfection, poor perfection. And I was just a bit like, okay, there's definitely Senti Monster vibes. I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, Thomas Astruck ages ago tweeted out like rule 1, Adrian is perfect. So it's definitely hinting more the Senti Monster stuff. But I'm just like, okay, you want them to date each other, fine, okay. Bit strange that you care so much about your children's love lives. I guess I don't have enough information yet to really judge you, but I was just a bit like, okay, it's a bit weird. But why do we have to do it before Gabriel dies? I don't know. The only thing I can think of is, so I'm doing my PhD in part about Japan, and whilst I'm focusing more on mental health in Japan, I've found out just random cultural stuff about Japan that I find interesting. For example, did you know that people apparently used to get possessed by foxes? I highly doubt that was true, but anyway. One of them is that they still have arranged marriages in Japan, which I know happens in a lot of other countries still. Not really so much a thing here, but it still happens in Japan. Think about actually only 6% of the population is married through arranged marriages, which I know isn't a high percentage, but when I'm viewing it in a country that no longer, obviously we used to have arranged marriages, but no longer really does arranged marriage, it's a bit strange to me, but it does still happen in Japan, and I know obviously this is taking place in France, but maybe that's what's going on there, but like also why? And it does also bring up the question of, even though Tomoe and Gabriel have seemed to know each other their whole lives, and assuming Kagami is also Senti, she really has known him for ages, why did Adrian and Kagami only meet in season 2 of this show when they were both like 14, 13 years old? It's a bit strange, and the only reason I can think of right now is that Emily seemed to have been, when I say seemed because I'm not entirely sold that she's a good person, Emily seemed to have been the better parent and didn't want to control Adrian, so she would have been against an arranged marriage for Adrian because she didn't want to control him that much. I can see that, but I am a little bit confused, and then Tomoe was like, I'll bring up the dance then, so it happened sooner. So that's the only thing I'm thinking, is that they were planning on maybe announcing an engagement between them at this dance, but I'm not sure why it's so important. Why do they have to be together? I don't get it, but I also absolutely love the irony of how it seems that, assuming Adrian and Kagami are Senti monsters, that they were made for each other, like quite literally made for each other, but also at the same time, after using the cat Miraculous, Adrian also became like the perfect opposite to Marinette. Like they are literally the perfect opposites. Like, so the cat Miraculous, bad luck, the Ladybug Miraculous, good luck. However, you could argue that Adrian has this perfect life, he has good luck, but his home life is terrible, whereas Marinette, she's late on time to school, and her life is a bit of a disaster at times, so she has bad luck, but at the same time it's good because she has a loving family and wonderful friends, and her parents don't control her. Like, even their clothing, so in a way they are both wearing the exact same thing. They both have a shirt on, a t-shirt, and Marinette has a blazer and he has a shirt. And actually, I'll see if I can find it. When you do something with the colours on it, I don't know enough about how to do this, but it perfectly inverts them and swaps their colours. So they're quite literally the perfect opposites of each other. So I kind of like the irony, is that Adrian was made perfect for Kagami and she was made perfect for him, but just real life doesn't work like that. And through using the Miraculous, he has become like, him and Marinette have become like yin and yang to each other, if that makes sense. I know, I quite like it. I like romance stuff, so I think it's quite sweet. But anyway. So let's backtrack a little bit to Kagami and Adrian in the kitchen. Oh my god, their parents, they thought they were talking about each other. And it turns out that, no, I'm gonna invite Marinette round, she's the one I want to be with. And Tomoe was like, excuse me? That was great. But I really, really loved Adrian in the scene, of how considerate he was being when he finally realised, like, well, I'm glad he found it funny that Marinette was so like giggly and funny around him. I'm glad he's finally found out that it was because she was so nervous, and I'm not sure uncomfortable is the right word. I think it's just nervous and anxious, which is perfectly understandable. I am the exact same way around the person I like as well. But I really, really appreciated it, how he was so kind and understanding about it. Like, I also haven't been kissed, which again is a result of my autism, because I am really worried about being manipulated and it's someone leading me on, and they don't really have any feelings for me, and I don't have enough experience with real life romance to be able to actually work out. Like, the way I learn how to do things is by watching other people. But my parents got divorced when I was like 7 years old. My auntie and uncle were never really romantic with each other before, and the only thing I've had to learn from is TV and books, but I've also learnt from TV and books that you can also be manipulated, because not everything I've read has been lovely. So I'm always really apprehensive when it comes to dating and stuff. So I really appreciated seeing Adrian being like he understood where Marinette was coming from and why she was so anxious, and he wasn't like holding it against her. He was like, okay, she's gonna be anxious, so I gotta do this right. I really appreciated it. Honestly, at this point, Adrian is the reason why I'm single, because he is so wonderful. Like, I know a lot of people, I know a lot of you have grown up with the show. A lot of you have had crushes on Adrian when you were younger, which is really cute, but I was 21 when I started watching the show, so I've never had a crush on him. Obviously, that would be weird. But I've always thought he was really sweet and just absolutely wonderful. And I'm just like, Adrian, could you stop being so perfect for a minute? Because it's gonna make my life so much more difficult. So then he texts Marinette and she's like, yep, okay, let's do this, let's go now, in her pyjamas. And oh my god, the line, she's like, well, if he loves me, he has to love me in my pyjamas too. And I'm like, yes, yes, Marinette, that's... She was amazing in this episode. Marinette was absolutely fabulous in this episode. But then, hold on, back to Sentimonster stuff. So a lot of people were asking, so over the weekend I made a video. What is this betrayal? I moved my foot isn't even on the bed, and you both fell? I swear to God. Anyway, back to what I was saying with the Sentimonster stuff. I made a video on the weekend looking at all the evidence about whether or not Kagami was a Sentimonster. And a lot of people are saying, well, why does she have her amok? And obviously in this episode, Miss Tsurugi says, my daughter doesn't need me to control her. She obviously has faith in Kagami that she can do everything great on her own. So I was like, okay, that explains it then. She just doesn't feel she needs to. Problem solved. Oh yeah, and here's the line, back to Sentimonster, what I was trying to find before. He says, you and Kagami are of the same design. That's disgusting. I understand what he's meaning, but I'm just a bit like, just because they're senti doesn't mean they have to date. I feel like there's a much bigger reason than them just being senti monsters. There has to be. And if you already know it, I don't want to know it. I just want to talk about it. Alright, I like these commentary videos so I can just express myself freely about how I feel about the episode. So now let's talk about the rings, because I was saying in emotion, I was very confused because it seems that Natalie and Gabriel both have a ring on. And whilst Gabriel seems to have both rings now, obviously because Felix gave him the other one back in Strike Back, I had always assumed that the ring Felix took was his amok, but it was a bit strange that they would have put the amok for someone who isn't even their child in one of their wedding rings, which is just a bit odd, but okay. However, I was wondering, like, did he give Natalie the ring Felix gave back to him? Like, at what point did he take it off Natalie? Because I feel like after the events of this season, particularly in something like Evolution and Passion, that Natalie wouldn't just let Gabriel have Adrian's amok back without a fight, because she loves this boy, as shown in this episode. She loves him a lot. So I was a bit like, why would you do that? But it definitely seems that the amok is split between the two rings, which is super duper interesting. I didn't know you could do that with something like an amok, and maybe that is what caused the Peacock Miraculous to break. I know a lot of people have speculated that before, but I've always been a bit like, because we've never shown proof that you can do that with an amok. I know in Mega Leech all the amoks was in the different mini Maledictators, but that wasn't the same because it got cloned. So they're not the same. This is like an amok literally being split in two and put into two separate objects. So now I'm like, okay, so if these are indeed the two Grander Vanilli rings that Emily and Gabriel got married with the amoks in them, first of all, surely Emily would know that and wouldn't ever ask for them back like she does in the episode Felix, right? Surely she'd never ask for them back if she knew they had the amoks in, because I've always said if Felix is a senti monster, then I feel like Emily knows, because I feel like her husband died making Felix. I assumed he did it with the broken Miraculous. So why would she ask for them back? Because I would assume she'd also know that Adrian was senti, right? But now I'm a bit like, so both of the wedding rings are Adrian's amok, which in a way does make sense to me, so one of them isn't just parenting him, and by parenting I mean controlling. So I was like, okay, that does make sense in a way. I'd like to see it happen. to see how he can split an amok in half like that. Maybe that's going to be in an episode this season. I'd love to see that happen. But like, it seems for definite that Adrian is one, because Gabriel gives him an order, like, you're not allowed to talk to Marinette, and Natalie's like, no you are, text her. And she also fiddles with her ring. I think we don't actually see that. We just see her look at her ring and then the computer's covering her hand, right? But obviously it counteracts the order Gabriel gave to Adrian, as Gabriel says, like, why are you countering this? Because Natalie's a queen, she doesn't listen to you, she doesn't need you, mate. He wants to know why she's countering it. So I'm like, okay. But Thomas Astruc said there are 3 Senti monsters in the show. So at the minute I'm like, Adrian, Kagami, and someone else, because part of me is also wondering now, is it even Felix? Because, right, I think I did this in a video not long after Daddy Agrest died last season, where I was trying to look at both sides for all the Senti monster evidence and see like if it was absolute proof that Felix was one or not. And I know Gabriel like goes to snap his fingers, but he also says something like, I can ruin your life, rather than like kill him or snap him. And I felt that could have just been hinting at, like, it seems that Gabriel and Amelie, at least at the time in season 4, were in some sort of business together, maybe doing some business dealings because they're both rich, and I don't know, I'm too poor to understand it, okay? I don't know, but it seems like they could have been working together on something. So I'm wondering if Felix didn't obey Gabriel, he would like ruin Felix's family that way rather than kill him, because I felt like that part could have been interpreted differently. Like, even though I personally believe the Senti monster stuff, I do try and see it from both sides, because I didn't used to believe in the Senti monster stuff. So I do try and see it from both sides. So I was like, huh, okay, interesting. However, in Emotion, I feel like we did get quite a lot of hints that Felix was one. He called the Red Moon thing his sister. He felt really bad for the Strike Back Senti monsters. And I'm like, why would he feel that way if he wasn't a Senti monster? I guess maybe he's just really for Senti monster rights, and he took the Peacock Miraculous so he could properly protect his cousin, because I'm pretty sure up until Emotion he didn't realise Kagami was a Senti monster until he sensed her amok in the ring, because obviously he wouldn't have had the Peacock Miraculous prior to Strike Back, so he never would have been able to sense amoks without it. So part of me is wondering, Asian is a Senti and Kagami's a Senti, but we know from Thomas Astruc that there are 3 Sentis in the show. So, I said in my Kagami video on Saturday, I know this is a long-winded point, I'm sorry, that it seems the Agrests, the Sarugis, and the bourgeois families, I can never remember how to say Chloe's last name, are working together. But I wasn't sure how the bourgeois family really played into this, other than Audrey helped to like discover that Gabriel Babes was like this amazing fashion designer. So now I'm wondering, is Chloe or Zoe a Senti monster? And I'm saying that without any proof other than the ending of Feast, when Tomoe and Audrey are watching on telly the temple reappearing in Tibet. That's the only proof I have for it. I am not certain in the slightest, but it is making me wondering about the rings, because it seems that Adrian's amok is indeed split between the 2 wedding rings. So in that case, where is Felix's amok? He does wear a ring normally, so is it perhaps in there? I don't know. But I am right now a little bit confused by it all. If Adrian's amok is split between the 2 rings, it means that Felix's amok was never in there in the first place. Arguably, maybe you could still put it in there, but Gabriel was wearing that ring in Emotion, and he didn't once try to control Felix to get him to stop, so it seems that Felix's amok isn't in there if he is a Senti monster. So I am confused and intrigued all at the same time. I want to know what's going on. So I think that's all I got to say about the Senti monster stuff for this video. So I'm sorry if you hate it, but I feel like it needs to be discussed, okay? But Natalie, absolute queen, letting Adrian do what he wants, yes! Like, that's the only control I would take, like positive controls. Like, oh, your father says you can't do this, well, I'm gonna let you do this. But I really, really love like the Cat Blank vibe. So when Marinette eventually shows up at the manor after Adrian texts her back, he's like, no, we're on. And he like just peeks out of the door and she's waiting by the gates, to like kind of the parallels with Cat Blank. And then Maurice, the best bodyguard, helping to sneak them in the kitchen, gives them the basket, oh my god, and just that, the Adrianette, oh my god, was everything. So he sees Marinette's in her pyjamas and he's like, you wait here, I'm putting mine on too, and also me, you all better have been in your pyjamas for this. Sit down, put your PJs on, get a hot chocolate, get a snack. Okay, I feel it's gonna be a long video. I've got a lot to say about this episode. But oh, the pyjamas were great, the picnic, yes, gaming, yes. I'm like, He really knows Marinette really well. He knows gaming is something she loves, something she'd be really comfortable doing. Instead of sitting there and watching a film in silence, they can have fun and play a game together. It was absolutely perfect. The way he was animated to look at her. The one thing you all know I love so much about Guilt Trip, the reason why I love it so much, is because of the way Adrian looks at Marinette in the boiler room scene. So cute, I loved it so much, and the looks he gave her in this episode weren't quite as good, but still loved them regardless. Amazing. However, I do have a question. So Gabriel was obviously watching most of the picnic unfold, which was just creepy in my opinion. But assuming Adrian is a sentient monster, then why hasn't he just forced Adrian to be in love with Kagami? I know it's cruel, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, he should do it because that seems like a good thing. Obviously it's cruel, but Gabriel's cruel. It's the only reason I'm saying this. But I'm a bit like, why haven't you just done that? Like, if it's such a big deal for you, for who Adrian is in love with, just do it. Seems a bit strange, but okay. And then also Lila towards the end of the episode was like, maybe you should look for a new partner for your son, and he was like, yeah, maybe, whatever. So it's making me wonder that maybe instead he's saving doing that for Lila. Although it does bring up the question, can you do that? Can he control a sentient monster's emotions? And I don't see why he wouldn't be able to. Is it mean? Of course it is, but I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be able to. I feel like it's possible. I don't know. And also speaking about Gabriel and Lila, I've been certain for ages, and obviously it got confirmed at the end of Emotion, that Lila knew Gabriel Babes was Monarch Daddy. However, I also did feel that Gabriel was at the very least suspicious that Lila knew his identity. So their conversation, or both of their conversations in this episode, were a bit odd, to be honest, because I felt like Gabriel was aware, but it seems like he had no idea that Lila knew. So I'm a bit confused, and just some of the things he was saying, it made me think that possibly he did know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think Gabriel is aware that Lila knows he's Monarch? Like, I don't know, and possibly part of me is thinking, well, if he did know, why would he drop her in Emotion? Or well, maybe not drop her exactly, but you know what I mean, like he shouted at her in Emotion. So maybe what his thought process is right now is that Lila's just a schoolgirl. Yeah, she might know, but like, realistically, what's she going to be able to do about it? Who's going to believe her? No one. I can see that logic, I can see that line of reasoning, and I doubt he'll ever think, oh, she's going to betray me and take the butterfly Miraculous. I doubt that's ever going to cross his mind, you know. But right now I'm a bit confused about that. I wasn't sure. Maybe it was just because of the translation. Maybe I'll have a better understanding whenever we see this episode in English. But I was a bit like, I don't know. So we go back to the Adrianette where they hold hands. Like I said, it'll happen when it happens. So I remember in high school, so I had these two friends. The girl I had known, I won't say their real names, I had known since we were 4 years old, and the boy I had met when I was 11. And I was both really good friends with him. And when we were about, I don't know, 15, in the final year of high school in England, they started dating each other, and I was thrilled for them. They were the cutest couple. And other than holding hands around school, they didn't do anything else, because why would you? You're in school. Why would you start kissing in the corridor? You more than likely wouldn't, although if you do that at school, great, good for you. However, two of our other friends kept telling this boy that we were all friends with, it was like, oh, they kept asking like, oh, have you kissed her yet? And he'd be like, no, not yet. And they'd be like, okay, you have to do it like this, you have to take her to this location, you have to make it perfect, you have to wear this, you have to do all these things. I remember we were walking home together once, just me and this boy, so really good friends. I think we stayed friends until we were like 21. But he was like asking me for advice. I don't know why he was asking me for advice, because I like he knew I'd never been in a relationship, but he was like, what should I do? I feel like there's so much pressure on me to kiss her in this perfect moment and perfect location. I was like, just forget it. Like, if you don't want to kiss her, don't kiss her. But if you do, just you'll know when the perfect moment is, right? You'll know. Forget what they've said. Okay, so I was just like, this was the perfect moment for Adrian and Marinette. They just slowly start holding hands, they turn to face each other, and the music, I feel like I'm not the best at recognizing the like non-instrumental music, but to me it sounded like something I've heard for the Awakening movie, which just sounded amazing, just in general. I can't wait for the film. But I was like, oh my god, yes, yes, oh, it was the best. And then when Akumatai's Kagami arrived, how Adrian was protecting her, he like grabbed her and rolled her out the way like he did at the start, or not the start of, like probably halfway through Catalyst, the season 2 finale. Oh my god, yes, one of my favourite moments. He was protecting her, they ran upstairs, the sword fighting, protects her as cat and what, yes! Loved it! But then when Cat Noir freed Marinette and she was like, oh thank you Cat Noir, I'm like, why are you having a full-on conversation? Just run and go transform. Ain't nobody got time for this. Okay, no one's got time, no one's got time. So they de-akumatized Kagami, and like I said, I do really like the love square, so I was happy, personally, that there was less Akuma stuff in this episode, but maybe if you're not a fan of Love Square, I mean to be fair, if you're not a fan of Love Square, you're probably really hating this season overall. It's probably your least favourite season, but in terms of Love Square content, I'm living my best life this season. But I really liked how after they de-akumatized Kagami, she refuses the charm from both Ladybug and Cat Noir, but will take it from Marinette and Adrien, which obviously is ironic in itself because of who they actually are. But I just loved that. It was such a great moment, and I do feel really bad for Kagami. You can dislike someone and feel bad for them, but like, it is really difficult, especially with autism. I know it's really tricky to often understand what you're feeling, especially where romantic feelings are concerned. I can understand, I can really empathise with her, and it's even harder when the person you like, and this is not an autistic thing, it's just for everyone, if the person you like is dating someone else, and especially if you're friends with that someone else, it's really difficult. So I did feel really, really bad for her. However, I know what Gabriel was saying in that episode, how like the worm's been planted or whatever he said now, in the hopes that Adrien and Marinette, who both care deeply for Kagami, will break up because they want to make Kagami happy. However, even if they do break up to make Kagami happy, which I don't think they will, by the way, I'll talk about that in a minute, I don't think that means Adrian's going to get back with Kagami. He's still going to be in love with Marinette. You're just going to make your son sad. So what I'm thinking right now is, because in Emotion, maybe it's just because of the kind of situation Emotion was, I feel like maybe episode 17 could be about the three of them again, as in Adrien, Marinette and Kagami, and their relationship, as in their friendship, plus also the romantic relationship between Adrien and Marinette, and see what happens. I feel like they maybe could suggest maybe we should break up for Kagami, but Kagami's gonna be like, don't you dare! Basically. I don't feel like Kagami will. As difficult as it is, like she says, she loves them both dearly. I don't think she'd ever ask them to do it, and if she found out they did that for her, I think she'd probably get akumatized because she'd be so upset that she feels like that she destroyed their relationship, basically. So I am worried about Adrianette, but I'm more worried about it in the context of the identity reveal. I'm not worried about them breaking up because of Kagami. I don't think they will. I think it'll be fine. Be fine. I'm not worried about that. So yeah, overall, I was going to say 9 out of 10. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, first of all because of the class interfering. The first few times, okay, yeah, it's cute, it's sweet, thank you for the help, but they are dating each other officially. Just let them do it at their own pace, go away. It just seems like they may be running out of ideas for the rest of the class. So I'm like, why don't you just give them their own storylines? I love Mark, give Mark a whole ass storyline. I'd enjoy that. But also due to Kagami, I can understand as an autistic person how easy it is for someone with autism to be manipulated, so I can understand that even though Kagami is really smart, she has been manipulated by Lila twice now and has twice resulted in her akumatization. So I can understand that, and I don't think it's that unrealistic, but I do think it's slightly unrealistic for Kagami to continue being friends with her. The only reason, like I said before, the only reason I can think of them doing it is because they need them to be friends with each other later on in the season for a plot point, or in a future season for an important plot point, which is fine, they're planning ahead, but if that's the case, then I don't think they should have had Lila and Kagami have that conversation post-credits right at the end of the episode. It was the post-credits scene, right? Yeah, I think it was. I've already forgotten. I finished watching it like half an hour ago. I've already forgotten what order things happened in. So yeah, that's the reason it's an 8 out of 10. I don't think it was a bad episode. I did for the most part really enjoy it. Obviously it had Adrianette in. If it has Adrianette in, it's my favourite side of the Love Square, you know I'm going to enjoy it. And I would say the MVP was Adrien. He was amazing, raising expectations for men all over this planet. He is the best boy. And whilst I don't have a crush on Adrien, I would absolutely love to date someone who is pretty similar to him with how kind and caring and considerate he is, as someone who is basically at this point scared to be in a relationship with someone. I really, really did appreciate it. How he really took Marinette's feelings into account and realised why she'd finally been acting the way she did, and how he could make her more comfortable with this relaxed picnic with just the two of them on their own, somewhere nice and quiet and peaceful, doing something he knows she loves. He's amazing! What can I say? I love Adrien. So those are all my thoughts on protection besties. As always, if you want to write me a really long ass essay, please go for it. Just please put some paragraphs in. I have terrible eyesight, it just helps me to read it a bit more. However, I am going to be away in London for a couple of days starting from tomorrow. So if it takes me a little bit longer to get to your comments than usual, that is the reason why, not because I'm ignoring you all. So apologies in advance, but I went to Edinburgh last week and as you know it took me a bit longer to get to some of your comments, but I did reply to all of the comments. So I will do it, it just might take me up until the weekend to catch up with everything. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. And also if you have any questions in general about autism and how you think it might affect Kagami's character, or maybe any of the other characters you think are autistic, I'd love to hear them and see if we can all answer them together. I know I'm not the only autistic person, I know quite a lot of you watch me because you are also autistic and like the fact I am as well, so it'd be cool if you get a discussion around autism going. I would actually like to ask Thomas Astruc if Kagami is autistic, but I also don't want to get blocked by him. Why would he block me over asking that? I don't know, but this is Thomas Astruc. He defies logic at this point. But anyway, besties, I'd love to know what you all thought of the episode. Please do not worry if you didn't agree with me. Besties don't always agree with each other, but besties always respect each other's opinions, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!